This is the story of America, from the Pilgrims landing at Plymouth Rock to the Louisiana Purchase and everything in between. It's time to learn about the rise of America. Part 1. The First English Settlements. England had been ruling the seas for centuries, but no one wanted to travel to North America. And there were two reasons for that. Number one was the wealth. North America was very poor. And number two was the cold climate. There was nothing in North America that made it any better than Europe, so why move there? However, all of that changed after the discovery of gold in the New World. But when word got out that Spain had discovered gold in their new colonies, King Henry VIII decided he wanted a piece of that action. But instead of going to the New World himself, he gave charters to private businesses to explore and conquer new lands for him. This gave birth to the Virginia Company and the Plymouth Company. They were given the rights to establish settlements in North America. But each company would need to make money on their own, and this led to the first English settlement in North America at Roanoke. It was established by Sir Francis Drake on July 1585. Unfortunately, within 3 years, it was completely abandoned. So who knows what happened there? But then 3 years later, 105 English settlers arrived on the shores of what would become Virginia. And they founded the colony of Jamestown on May 13, 1607. It was named after King James I, and this would be the first permanent English settlement in North America. Now, since this was the first permanent English settlement, they ran into a few issues. For starters, they didn't know how to farm in the swampland, and the second was the food. All they had was a 2-week supply when they arrived, and they quickly ran out. And with the winter approaching, the settlers began to starve. Luckily, one of the settlers was a tobacco farmer from Virginia, and he knew just what to do. John Rolfe would grow a special strain of tobacco that would bring in riches to the colony and save it from starvation. Part 2. Building a nation. As more and more settlers came to the New World, it became obvious that there needed to be a way to govern these colonies. So in 1618, King James I officially made it a royal colony. He appointed a governor and an assembly. And now the colony of Virginia could start to flourish. Then, on September 25, 1620, a small group of English people known as the Pilgrims landed on the shores of what would become Massachusetts. You see, they were separatists who wanted to separate from the Church of England. They had gone to Holland to escape persecution, but they wanted to raise their family in their own colony. With them, they brought the Mayflower Compact, which was basically a promise to create a government where everyone had a say in it. This would be the first step towards democracy in the New World. However, while the Pilgrims were settling in the New World, the leader of England, King Charles I, was having some problems. You see, England was split between two groups. One group believed the king should have absolute power, and the other group believed that Parliament should have equal power. Well, Charles wasn't having it, and he ruled as an absolute monarch over his people. This created tension between the king and his people, and it eventually erupted. Charles was forced to flee to Normandy, France, where he would live out the remainder of his life. And this started a civil war back in England. Oliver Cromwell was put in charge of the military, and he crushed the royalists, those who supported the king. This period in England's history is known as the Commonwealth, and it lasted until 1660. Now, during this time, the colonies were still under the rule of England, but it was run by Parliament. And they passed something called the Navigation Act. This act stated that all goods coming into or out of the colonies had to be transported on English ships. This helped boost the colonial economy, but it also made them rely on England. And this relationship would last until the American Revolution. But for now, let's go back to the colonies. Go back. More and more people were coming to the New World, and this led to conflict with the Native Americans. The colonists didn't understand the Native American culture, and they kept pushing further and further west. In 1622, the Native Americans launched a surprise attack on the colonists, but it was unsuccessful. And this led to even more tension between the two groups. To try and settle the conflict, the colonists met with the local chief, Powhatan, to discuss peace. But the talks went poorly, and the colonists left empty-handed. On March 12, 1622, the colonists attacked the Native American village and destroyed it. This event was known as the Anglo-Powhatan War, and it would be the first major war between the colonists and the Native Americans. It lasted for 9 years and ended with the colonists winning. The treaty forced the Native Americans to move further west, and this would open up more land for the colonists to settle. And this is exactly what they did. By 1630, there were over 1,500 Puritan refugees from England, and they settled in an area known as the Massachusetts Bay Colony. The Puritans were a group of people who wanted to purify the Church of England from all of its Roman Catholic traditions. But after King Charles I came into power, their persecution increased, and this forced them to flee to the New World. Under the leadership of John Winthrop, the Puritans built a thriving community based on their religious beliefs. They created a government that was run by elected officials, and they established schools to educate their children. Their hard work paid off, and by 1640, the colony had grown to over 20,000 people. Part 3. The French and Indian War. As the colonies continued to grow, so did the conflict with the French and the Native Americans. You see, the French had been in North America for decades, and they had established a strong presence in Canada. They had also formed alliances with several Native American tribes, and together they posed a threat to the colonists. Tensions finally boiled over in 1754, when a group of French soldiers attacked a group of British traders. This was the start of the French and Indian War, and it would be the first major war between the colonies and the French. The war was fought in North America, and it was part of a larger war in Europe known as the 7 Years' War. The British colonies were divided over the war. Some colonies, like Massachusetts and Connecticut, were eager to fight the French, while other colonies, like Pennsylvania and Delaware, wanted to remain neutral. In the end, the British colonies won the war, and this opened up more land for the colonies to settle. But it also led to a lot of debt for the British government. The war had cost a lot of money, and the government was looking for ways to pay for it. They decided to start taxing the colonies, and this led to the American Revolution. The colonists were angry about the new taxes, and they began to protest. They boycotted British goods, and they organized groups to resist the British. The most famous group was the Sons of Liberty, and they were led by Samuel Adams and John Hancock. They organized protests and riots, and they even attacked British soldiers. The British government cracked down on the colonists, and this led to the American Revolution. The war lasted from 1775 to 1783, and it was one of the first wars in history where the colonists won. The war was fought all over the colonies, and some of the most famous battles were the battles of Lexington and Concord, the Battle of Saratoga, and the Battle of Yorktown. The war was won with the help of other countries like France and Spain, and it led to the creation of the United States of America. After the war, the United States became a republic, and it was led by a president. George Washington was the first president, and he set the tone for the new government. He was a strong leader, and he worked to create a stable government. Under his leadership, the United States grew and prospered, and that's the story of America. From the first English settlements to the Louisiana Purchase, it's been a long journey, but it's been worth it. If you want to learn more about America, stay tuned for more videos. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.